Have you found yourself wondering, is there something more? If so, then you, my friend, are a dreamer in waiting. I'd like to welcome you to the Dream On podcast. I'm Julia Gentry, and along with my husband, Travis Gentry, we discuss real, raw, and not small talk conversations about faith, family, entrepreneurship, and all the things that matter most in this life in order to help people bridge the gap between what they currently have and what they really want most. Join us as we give you insights, tools, and strategy to chase every dream that's on the inside of you, but be forewarned. This podcast is not for the faint of heart, but rather those of heart. This is the Dream On podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Dream On podcast. Only we're in a box.
We're in a trailer.
We're in a trailer.
We're in a 5x10 trailer that is hooked up to our car.
Why in the world are we in a 5x10 trailer? He calls it a trailer, I call it a box. Why, Travis, are we in a 5x10 box?
Because we are getting ready to hit the road again. And so whatever we can put in here, which I keep telling Julia, we're not going to pack it. We're going to bring what we need. The kids' school stuff and clothes and bikes and some toys.
You know, there's 6 of us, so whatever
that we need.
Whatever we need, going from a 4,000 square foot house into a 5x10 box trailer. So we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about why we're in this 5x10 trailer and where we're going, and we're going to talk about this concept of letting go. Because I think it's important that as you really develop into this mindset of being a dreamer and a creator in this life, that it's so important to understand the art of letting go. Especially because I feel like we live in a consumer nation, and I feel like the media and the news and social media is all about more, get, have. And so we thought it would be really important just to dig down deep today to talk about the art of letting go.
Yeah, and how hard it is to let go of something and say no to something.
Yep.
Then sometimes it is to even start to do something.
Totally.
You have to let go of where there could be where your identity is attached, and it could be stuff, or you keep doing something knowing it's not really what you want.
Yes.
And where it's not taking you to where you want to be.
Yes.
But it's easier to keep doing it as opposed to stop doing that and start to do something new. So it's kind of a combination. It's both.
Yes, it is.
Starting and stopping, because you want to fill it with something if you're going to stop something.
Yep.
And it's just identifying that and understanding.
Yep.
And that's the whole concept, of the Dream On podcast is, it takes courage.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
To do this. And this is not our first journey. It started 12, 13 years ago when we had the dream of getting in an RV and traveling the country.
Yep.
Because I love adventure.
And I, at the time, I'll admit, didn't, but I have been a recovering controller, right? So it was like, I remember when we just started to kind of like open this can of worms of like travel and adventure and pattern interrupts and changing routines, I was so stressed out and such a controller that this has been such a journey for me to like come out of those levels of stress and control. But even, I think why we wanted to talk about this, because a couple podcasts ago when we talked about the lifting till failure, right? We talked about that the stumbling block for a lot of people is that we keep doing what we've always done, thinking we're going to get a different result. Like whether we do more of what we've always done or we just keep doing what we've always done, thinking that somehow it's going to change the results that I have. And the reality is that couldn't be further from the truth, right? Like what got me to where I am isn't going to get me to where I want to be. And so in order to go somewhere I've never gone, in order to do something I've never done, yes, it's going to be some new strategies and implementations. But what we have found in our own journey, and also physically traveling the country in an RV a couple of different times and in many different ways, is that it's not about adding something to your plate. It's often about, what am I willing to let go of?
Yeah, and the hardest thing for us through that journey, going from that idea And then, life, you just start to live it out.
Totally.
And you start to work and make money and acquire things and,
Yes.
marriage and kids. And then you wake up, we woke up, and we're like, there's got to be more. I'm not totally fulfilled.
Yes.
There's something missing in our life.
Yep.
Our life is good, and our life is great relative to,
Yes.
some of the world around us.
Totally.
And the perception of it. But inside,
Yeah.
it's just not
Totally
100% fulfilling.
Well, and I think the biggest difference in building a life of just safety and security and jumping to like actualization and potential in your dreams is that for a lot of us, we either come from nothing, right? Or we come from a family that, again, my parents were divorced. Like, I remember people bringing boxes to our door on Christmas morning because my mom couldn't afford Christmas dinner or presents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, so I feel like what happens for a lot of us is we come from not everyone, but a poorer background, right? And so the next thing that we want to do is get what we never had. So we want to have more money, we want to have the house, we want to have the cars, right? I want to level up from where I was. So we start focusing on those safety, security, stability. And what we do is we just start focusing in on that. And then I remember, even for you and I, once we kind of hit our rock bottom, had no money, and we were $100,000 in debt, when you look up, you're like, all I want is money in the bank and a house to call my own and a white picket fence to protect me and a routine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want to also be mindful that we're talking about like real needs, human needs. Maslow's hierarchy talks about this. Like, I have real human needs that I have to achieve so that I can continue to progress. The problem is, I don't think most of us progress. We get the house, we get the cars, and then what we do is we stack the deck against us because now we've created the golden handcuffs, right? I have the job to pay for the mortgage, to pay for all this stuff. And so now if I think about living my dreams, I quote unquote can't because I have the handcuffs on.
Yeah,
You know
and that's everything. From a relationship to your job to the mortgage to the kids' school and the activities.
All of it is the golden handcuffs, right?
Yeah, so you kind of back yourself in, which is not bad as long as you're fulfilled.
Yep.
That's just not fulfilling to us.
Totally.
I love seeing new things. I love experiencing new things. I love meeting new people and cultures, and it's amazing when you drive across or go different places in just in the U.S. alone. Just the different energies and the different cultures and the foods and how they taste, different in different parts of the country. And that's what fills my soul.
Yeah.
And so now it's not either or.
Yes.
So I think that's what we've also done is that we've swung to the right and to the left sometimes where it's like either or. You can't have both, which we're stepping into this new season where we've done the travel or the fifth wheel. We've done a 37-foot A-class RV, and we've lived in nice homes, and so we have a 4,000+ square foot home that is such a blessing and amazing, and it's just there's just more for us. How do we do both? How do we have and be able to travel, meet new people, experience new things, serve our gifts and talents to the world around us, and be productive.
Yep. And the way that I think you start to unpack this, how do you have what you really want? Not even just both, but how do you have what you really want? And what we're talking about today is the willingness and the ability to let go. How do you know what to let go of? How do you know when to let go of it? Right? What do you do with the emotions that come up from letting go? Right? Like, I can even remember when Travis came to me with the idea, when we finally decided, this was back a couple years ago, when we finally decided it was time to travel the country in an A-class RV, like we were going to do it. And the reason we finally decided to do that is because we said we're either going to do it or we're never going to talk about it again, because we had been talking about it and talking. It's like the dreamer's loop, when it's like, okay, I'm so tired of talking about this that we're either going to do this or we're not. And we finally looked at each other, we said, great, we're going to do it. And Travis said, okay, I think we need to sell everything, right? Like that whole concept of the living estate sale. And I at first was like, great, let's do it. We sold everything. It was very dramatic in essence. Like, it was the craziest, wildest thing. But I remember waking up the next morning and feeling this like emptiness and freedom all at the same time. And both emotions were really interesting to me, because here we had sold everything my 1,700 gift bags and my 9 vases and our couch, but everything. And so you sit with going, we're free. Like, there's nothing holding us back. We can go anywhere we've ever wanted to be, which, great, that feels free. But then feeling like I've let
anything.
Go. Yeah, like my attachment to my gift bags. What if I need a vase for the flowers in my RV?
I don't have any stuff. All my stuff is gone.
Yeah, so let's talk. Yeah. Let's really dig in today about all the things that come up with, like, how do you know it's time to let go? When do you let go? Why do you let go? Like, what's the power and the art of letting go when we live in a world that's kind of, in theory, might be counterintuitive to that concept?
Well, and we're also, let's talk about it from all areas of life. It's not just stuff.
Yep.
It's not like moving and traveling. That's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just what we love to do. So how do we incorporate traveling and serving, the gifts and talents and being productive,
yep,
and having our business and raising our kids,
yep,
and letting them know, like, we're choosing this. We want to do this.
Yep.
We don't have to. And let's make it as fun as possible so they can learn as we're on the road. So
yep,
they get real world, real time experience.
Yep.
And so it's there again, it's kind of like having. So to go back to your question.
Well, and let's say this, because I think you bring up a good point. So even though we call ours traveling in an RV or traveling the country, whatever it is for you, when we say that, we're talking about your dream, right? Like, wherever your true north is, or what you're feeling called to do, or what God's got on the inside of you. When we're talking specifically about travel or RV or all that, it's the it. Okay, so that way we're not confused.
The dreams, desires.
Whatever it is for you, we're just going to use our examples and our analogy because I think it paints a great picture of the concept.
Yeah.
Right? Like getting in an RV, or for us right now, a 4,000 square foot house, that we don't have the house packed, right? Like, we've done a good job of just having the necessities, but literally, what are we physically going to let go of in order to get into this 5x10 trailer to go to the world and to do what we want to do? Like, that's a very physical.
And we're not looking to sell everything.
Right.
Like, we're just going to put everything in storage besides the stuff that we need.
Yep.
On a daily, weekly basis.
Right.
And that's what we're fitting in here.
Totally. With these flies. If you're watching, you can see the flies that are landing on our foreheads every once in a while. Okay, so
just part of being on the road.
Great. It's a sign of things to come. Okay, so let's talk about what does it mean to let go? Why do we not let go? Why do we hold on to things longer? Why do we keep doing the same things expecting a different result?
Well, I think it comes a lot back to you create your identity in whether it's relationship or the house or the car. You back into who you are and who you've been over a period of time, and so you get comfortable.
Yeah.
And so no matter how bad that is, you could be miserable in a relationship. You could be miserable at your job.
Yeah.
But you would rather have that miserable
Comfort.
Relationship or job or whatever it is, because like you know how it feels. You're experiencing it, even though it sucks. It's hard to say, okay, I don't know what the other side is going to look like.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard, so I'll just stay here because I've experienced it already.
Yeah.
So it's like the comfortable hell as opposed to unfamiliar heaven.
Yeah, for sure.
Taking that leap where it's like, it's so easy, and we've done that too, where it's like you start to go down a path, and then for you just to turn around and say, no, this isn't the path, even though it's not from perception is bad.
Yeah.
It's good, or, like some people are like, man, I would do anything to be able to have that or do that.
Yep.
I think it's just understanding who you are and what you want, and knowing that it's like, okay, I have to this is not where I want to go.
Yep.
And I have to give this up because it's taking up my time.
Totally. Or energy or mental capacity or whatever it is. Yeah, which I think is the interesting, like, it's one of those things that I feel like it's the simplest, stupidest, hardest thing to do, right? So you could sit all day long and go, I want to be really good at riding a bike, but I am going to keep riding my rollerblades all day long because someday I'll be good at riding a bike.
Yeah, you don't want to go through
And you feel good for a minute because you keep saying, you know what, I'm going to be great on my bike one day. And people are like, yes, you are. Like, you got this, honey. And then you put on your rollerblades again because all you know how to do, and you've done it day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, is how to put on your rollerblades. But then you keep talking about being good on your bike. But then when the reality is, when we sit down and go, great, what did you do today to be good on your bike? You're like, well, I rode my roller skates. You're like, but that's not going to get you to your being good on a bike. It's going to keep you good at roller skating.
Yeah, which the other point, as you say that we've experienced, and I see a lot of people, is that you get to a certain age and you think you should know everything.
Yeah.
And so as opposed to asking for help or getting a mentor or being around people that you're definitely going to look stupid.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
Totally.
But you're not supposed to.
Yep.
But you have this preconceived notion of like everybody cares about you.
Yeah.
And as opposed to you just stepping out, like going to the skate park, just the last couple of times, and I did too. I love snowboarding and wakeboarding and all that growing up, and the boys skateboard and scooter, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna get a skateboard. So I got a skateboard, and feel like a total idiot. And so I was like, I got past that, got on it, and within the first like week, I feel like I almost broke both my wrists falling down. So I haven't been back on it. But it's the same thing. Like there's this physical manifest. Like when I go to the skate park, I'm like, there's 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds that are just like ripping it up. Yeah. I feel stupid. To jump on a skateboard and try to skate around with them, like because I'm too old.
Totally.
Well, that's just this false truth that I've created for myself.
What's too old in the first
what is too old?
Yes.
So I've been to the skate park the last couple of times, actually this last week with Malachi, and there was a dad, full gear, helmet, pads, everything, and I'm like, that's amazing. And he was actually helping another kid that was probably 5 or 6 kind of drop into this bowl.
Yes.
And I'm like, we've got to stop making everything mean so much about us.
Totally, which is the number one, right? Like if we really look at this whole journey of going to a place you've never gone, doing what you've never done, like fully manifesting what God's put on the inside of you, like ego can't go with you. We live in such an ego, me focused, what do they think about me? What is this going to mean about me? Right? Like it's such a survival mindset, and it's such a like tier 2 thinking of what does everybody think about me? Your ego cannot go with you. And even as I'm saying this, like, I have felt so many times in the last week, right? Like, even writing this book and trying to put my content out there, my ego is way louder than I thought it was.
Yeah. I think everybody's is, because if you really back up and back into why people don't switch careers or start a business or whatever, it's all ego-based because it's fear and doubt of I should be a certain way, or I should look, or if I go to my family and say, hey, I'm going to quit this great paying job and I'm going to go do X, or I want to start this little side hustle, it's like you may get some people that laugh or say, well, you're not going to be successful, or I heard someone, or I saw someone, they tried it didn't work. And so it's like all the things, as opposed to being convicted by, okay, this is my dream because I have this thought. It's an original thought to me. God put it in me because potentially no one else is thinking it around me. And then for you to come up and say, I'm going to go and pursue this. I'm going to go, go back to school or start this business or change careers. And it's like
the ego.
The ego is so hard. And understanding that you have to take care of, whatever commitments that you have. And like what we talked about earlier, we start to make so many commitments that it actually confines us and like imprisons us of having to stay there. So you got the mortgage, you've got cars, you bought all the stuff and you put it on credit cards. So you basically spent your future. So you have to stay in this job or career or whatever you're doing to just sustain your lifestyle.
And so, okay, so number one, write that down so we don't. Number one thing that you're going to have to let go of is the ego, for sure. But then let's talk about what you're saying. So how do you let go of all those things then? Right? Like, what if that awareness is, okay, I've been building a life in a direction that I thought I wanted. Now it's not what I want. Right? What do you do? Because there's two trains of thought, right? We were talking to someone the other day that's like, look, if you make a commitment, you see that commitment all the way through, no matter what. Right? Where you and I come from a little bit of a different methodology, which is maybe it would serve us if we made our commitments slower, right? But how do you know, like, what commitments that you need to break so you can shift and move in the direction that you really need to be?
Well, I think and that's part of the journey of life in general.
Yeah.
I mean, how many kids, and even, my nephew is going to school, and it's like he's not 100% of like, this is the degree I want, this is the career I want.
Yeah.
So it's always trial and error, but I think you get to a point when you're in your 30s or your 40s, you have to have it all figured out, and you can't stop doing something.
Yeah.
And so the hardest decisions sometimes are when you got to take full ownership of it.
Totally.
And say, look, I made a mistake. I took this job, but it's just not the right job for me. I started this business and I had some partners, and it's like, it's just not, I see now what I didn't see. And if I keep going down this path, it's not going to be fulfilling. It's not going to lead. It's not going to serve you either.
Totally.
So making that decision, or a relationship, and saying like, hey, we're serious and all that, but it's like, this is not the relationship for me. And hopefully it sets both of you free to find the right relationship.
And I think that's where the courage comes into, right? So I think that a lot of it is not only letting go of your ego, it's going to be letting go of some of the commitments that are going to take you down a path that right? This is a deeper knowing. So this is a real intuitive, like, alignment with yourself and with God that goes, look, I have to be honest with myself, which I don't think most are. And I have to say that if I keep doing this, like, this is not going to get me to where I want to be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, anything. And I'm going to have to start letting go of these commitments, right? Like, that is one of the hardest, and I think one that takes the most amount of courage, is to be able to break the commitments that you've made.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's been hard. Some of the commitments that I've broken over my lifetime, some of the hardest, but some of the best as far as down the road.
Totally.
And you've got to like look at it not just from the here and now, but where.
Because then all that does is it's another short-term decision, right? Like, to your point, if I keep I'm stacking them. So even though I'm trying to take the path of least resistance, or look, I have to make this now, but what I'm doing is all of these short-term decisions are creating this barrier between what I want most, and now I'm getting further and further and further away from what I want, because now I'm continuing to stack the deck against me.
Yeah, which then becomes your crutch, your excuse of why you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I've got this. Well, totally get it and understand that, but you're the one that did it.
Totally.
Like, you're the one that backed yourself.
Decision
now,
decision after
let's be courageous and start to unravel that.
Yeah.
And some of it is potentially going to hurt someone else because you made a decision.
Yep.
But I think in the long run, it's going to work out and be beneficial for you and whatever that commitment is that you made.
And I think what that does, and you and I have learned this, because I think that we somehow, looking back in our life when we didn't even have the consciousness that this is what we're doing, we've had the courage to quit a lot of things that weren't serving us. So I think that you and I are probably better at that. But I think what it has done is it has slowed us down to making future decisions.
Oh, 100%. You learn so much because you don't want to go.
You don't want to do that again.
I don't want to do it again. So you have to now look at it and say, okay,
slow down.
Let's look at it from a new perspective and new experience, and not only here and now, but in the future. If I'm going to make this commitment, is it truly the commitment that I want to make?
Yes.
Is this, if I'm making a commitment with a person,
a business,
whatever it may be, you now have that experience to say, you can look like down the road.
Yes.
Where you have to kind of go through those situations sometimes because you don't have
context.
You have no context.
Which is why even for this time, again, if we're relating it back to this dream now, which is traveling the country again, 1, because we love adventure, to your point, 2, because of this book and all of our programs that we're launching, we just want to be out in the world with people. But we've had the context now because we've done it in a fifth wheel with 2 kids. We've done it in an A class with 3 kids, right? And so this time we were like, we're going to rent a house.
We're going to VRBO.
We're going to VRBO. And not because those ones were wrong. We just, when we did it the first time and then the second time, you don't have enough context. And so, but the idea is that if you don't go and try and make a commitment and stop a commitment, right? Like, you'll never have the context. But then use the wisdom as you move forward to go, okay, I've got to break a few commitments that I've made in order to get on a new path. It's par for the course. Do the best that you can. We talked about this in the last podcast. Do the best that you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Once you start breaking those commitments, you've got to make your own personal vow with yourself to go, okay, I got to be slower in making commitments. Mm-hmm. Right? To make sure that the commitment that I'm making is actually going to get me to where I want to be.
And then just taking, ownership of it.
Yeah. Totally. For
yourself and for anybody that it could have affected.
Yep.
Is just taking extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Jack O'Reilly says it, in his book.
Extreme ownership.
Extreme ownership.
Yep.
Like, just take extreme ownership. So it may have not been your fault 100%,
yep.
but you made the decision in some capacity and you're a part of it. So just take responsibility for your actions and your decision.
Totally.
And then as far as how someone else takes that in or internalizes it or processes it, it's like,
not yours.
It's not yours. You can't then hold on to that and look at it if the reaction is not the way you want and be like, well, it's me. I'm a failure, or sure. I'm bad, or I can't make good decisions, or you've got to also make sure and protect your mind in those situations.
Yeah.
Knowing I'm sorry. Yeah. I take ownership, and then it's whatever is said after that, or even the emotions, not even anything that's said. It's just like the evil me pops up and is like, yep, see, you did it again. Totally. Or you're a failure, or you can't follow through, or whatever it is.
Well, and I think, and my mom says this, like, what's mine, what's yours, right? Like, at some level, extreme ownership goes, you take as much ownership as you can, but then the way that they're going to respond, right? I can't control that. Mm-hmm. I can't control how they're going to respond. I can't control how they're going to react. That's not mine, which I think would be another thing that you have to let go of, right? So if we're looking at, you got to let go of ego, you got to let go of some of your commitments, you got to let go of your attachment. Like, we get so attached to so many different things, right? Our emotional attachment, mental attachment, physical attachment, right? Like, we grab onto things, right? Because we're just trying to compartmentalize the world and create all this, but we create so much meaning and interpretations around something that it really stops us. And so if I keep holding on to the fact that I've hurt so many people, or I failed so many times, or I tried once and I failed, and it stops me from the freedom and alignment of doing what's next to do, mm-hmm. right? It's our attachment to things. It's our biases. It's our experiences turned into interpretations that we call our own, and then we hold on to those suckers.
And then within that, I think for the other side, you can't, like what you just said, you can't, however they respond or however they act, mm-hmm. and it could be family, it could be friends, it could be someone you just met, and it's, you took this job, and then a week later, a day later, you're like, this isn't for me. Totally. So it could be a stranger, but whatever they say, you, like you said, you can't carry. But at the same time, it's like, show them.
Yeah.
Because no words are probably going to change their mind.
Yep.
So one, show yourself that potentially whatever is spoken over you is not true.
Yep.
And show yourself, which then will show them, which will set them free.
Yeah. For sure.
So I'm gonna learn from this and be better, and I'll show you that I'm better through my actions.
Totally. Which, again, as long as I'm attached, I can't do that. There's no freedom in attachment, right? Because if I'm now attaching myself to like a potential outcome, or what you think of me, or my routines, or my habits, or my 17 vases before I sold them, right? Like, whatever our attachments are, I have no freedom to show me, to prove it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like that concept, we were talking about this the other day, of like, ew, that fly, sorry, that fly that went up my nose. Is that as long as I'm holding on to something, my hands are not open to grab onto the next thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's impossible to go figure out what's next and where I'm going and the potential and the abundance and the variety and whatever that is. If I'm still holding on so tightly to whatever it is, I don't have space to open my hands for something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we're wanting. It's almost like, okay, I'll let go of this when you give me that. Like, that takes no faith. This is what I think is hysterical. We all love, like in the Bible when it talks about, like, David was a man of faith and Esther had faith, and all of us are like, yes, I just want to be a woman and man of faith. Okay, God, you drop the result right here, then I'll let go.
Yeah.
You're like, that doesn't take faith,
letting
bro.
go and swinging.
Totally.
And
Like, let's just be really clear of, if we want to be people of faith, it takes no faith to let go and grab onto something that's already there. That takes zero faith. It takes zero boldness. It takes zero courage. It basically just says, oh, here, you can have this and I'm going to grab this. Like, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not faith. And so if we don't let go of something, anything, emotional, mental, spiritual, little, then I can't build my faith, because my faith is built when I let go.
And the uncertainty of control.
And so as I'm saying this right now, the reason I slowed down is because, like, my life flashed before my eyes as of lately, because I've even noticed on, like, we've been here before, we've done this before, we've traveled, but the level of faith that it's starting to require in me, you start to look at yourself in the mirror and go, oh, I thought I had faith. No, I need some faith. Like, this is another area to strengthen more faith.
Different levels of faith.
That's what I'm saying, right?
It's,
like, you kind of go like, oh, I thought I had it. Yes, I thought I had a lot, but now it's proving the circumstances in front of me, or that level of control that I don't have, or now if I'm going to let go of this and I'm going to grab onto this, I see now of like, oh, I've got more room to grow than I thought I did.
Yeah.
But I can't see that if I'm not willing to let go of my attachments. Which is, I mean...
What are you attached to?
I think I'm still attached to a level of control. Like, I think I've looked back in my life and I've either always done something that I know the answer or I'm good at. And so now when I step in and I'm finally at a place, and I think then that's why what's made me a great coach, right? Because the coach knows it all. The coach always has the answer. Mm-hmm. And I've been playing in a realm that's my role. And so now that I'm moving into a direction where most of the time I might say, I don't know, is crazy, because I built my life around knowing.
Well, now looking at, not just in the coaching realm, but some of the things, to learn to be able to get the message out there, and redoing the website. I think we've redone it a half a dozen times in the last 2 months, and updated and tweaked and changed. And then, now we're looking at the YouTube and how do you do that, and the podcast, and putting all the pieces together. Because you see someone, there's a lot of people that we respect and that we watch and listen to, and it looks so easy.
Simple, stupid, hard.
Yeah. And it's like we realize the effort and the energy that they've put into doing what they do. So now it's up to us to say, okay, yes, we're going to go down this path, knowing that we're going to feel inadequate or feel stupid.
Yep.
But we want that result, because that's going to be more fulfilling to us than throwing up our hands and saying that's just too hard.
Totally.
There's too many moving pieces with some of the stuff that we're doing, where it feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's oh my God, really?
Yeah. Totally.
And then once you do it, and I think we've all experienced this at one point, you do it, and then 2 months later you're like, oh, that really wasn't as hard.
Yeah.
Or we want the result. We even talked about, I think, that today a little bit, where it's you want the result of what we see, but you have got to understand some of the people that have been doing some of the things that we want to do, and we're kind of modeling. They've been doing it for 10 years.
Totally. Well, and
so we want it now or yesterday, as opposed to saying I'm going to go through the process, because coming back to faith, your level of faith is also the level of faith in finances and relationship and business, and it's all encompassing. So you have to grow that, just like you have to have some resistance to be able to expand, to be able to go to that next level, to be able to handle more.
Yes, and I think that's where I think the next process of letting go is being able to enjoy the journey, which is one of our values as well, is joy, right? Is how do I have joy Like the Bible says, rejoice always, give thanks often, right? Like pray continuously. There is a reason, right? Like there is a reason that it says rejoice always. And you're like, how? Because I'm giving thanks continually. How? Because I'm praying all the time. Like it's so clear, like the way that you rejoice, if you can rejoice in all things, that means your perspective is in the right place. Bill Johnson talks about this all the time. And it convicted me so hardcore the other day when I was listening to it again, because he says, if you can give thanks in all things, in anything, your perspective is in the right place. Yeah. Because you either know that the trial is making you better, you know that God's bigger than the situation, and even though you're in a hard or in a financial situation that you're struggling or your business is going under or whatever, if I can still give thanks to God and trust, then it means that he's still bigger in my world than the circumstance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going, look at this is so big, now God of the universe can't solve it, which is typically what we do.
Yeah.
Right? But if I have joy in all things, that means I've let go of my fear, my worry, my doubt, or when it comes up, I know how to shift it and replace it. Now you're enjoying the journey. Mm-hmm. You're enjoying the day-to-day of building the muscle and building the strength and building to the result. It's not just about the result. It's about who I become on the way, because when I get there, I want to stay there. Yeah. I need the muscle along the way. I need the lessons along the way, because getting there isn't easier.
And if you're not willing to some of the things that we're talking about today, you're going to get, it's almost like a GPS on your phone. Like if you put in an address that you want to go to.
These flies, by the way.
There's a bunch of flies.
If you're watching us and we're like.
in our little trailer.
We look like we're twitching, it's because of the flies.
It's...
If people are watching right now, we're like, what are they doing?
This is a part of the journey. We were going to do the podcast on the outside of it to showcase it. Well, guess what happened? It's windy. We can't do the podcast on the outside. So we're like, well, we'll just do it on the inside then. And little did we know that there was going to be a bunch of flies out here in the woods where we're at. So
if you see us twitching, it's not because we're crazy. Well, we are a little crazy, but
so it's almost like putting an address in your phone, mm-hmm. and then you're going. You're gonna get potentially, like, if you pass your exit, you get rerouted.
Yeah.
But if you don't learn the lesson, you're gonna get rerouted and rerouted and rerouted and go in circles almost.
Yes.
As opposed to like, okay, I'm going to enjoy the journey, and there's, you look at your GPS, you type in the address, and there's 3, 4, 5 different ways to get there.
Yes.
The quickest way to the slowest way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes the quickest way is not the best way.
Totally.
And sometimes you have to actually go like 2 or 3 times, mm-hmm. because you're not learning some of the lessons. You're not learning to have faith. You're not learning and growing through the experiences. Yep. To be able to handle, once you get to that place, can you not only stay there, can you maintain it?
Yeah, not can you only get there, but can you maintain it?
Yeah.
Totally.
And can you grow from there?
Yes.
That's your new level of foundation.
Yes, which I think, again, we all want that whole concept. Mark Manson talks about this all the time, which is he wanted to be in a band, right? He just wanted to be a star, until he realized, I'm not doing anything. Like, my friends are literally night after night after night doing gigs, and they're playing and they're practicing. And he's like, no, I like the idea of being a star, but let's be honest, I don't want to actually be a star, because I'm not doing the hard things to be a star.
Yeah.
But that's why I think we have to let go of, even to this point, sometimes we busy our schedules and our to-do lists are so long. If I look at my to-do list right now, I have fewer things on there, but they're harder to do. And so it's like I have to let go, because I have to put all of my attention on where we're going, which is new and it's outside of my comfort zone. And so it's almost like you have to kind of strip away the busy. Like, mm-hmm. let go of being busy so you can build your belief.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because as long as I'm busy, then I don't have to really dig deep and believe, right? I don't have to really dig deep and go, what am I made of, and what does God say about this, and what am I convicted by? Because I'm so busy and I'm just doing my to-do list and I feel really good about accomplishing all these things, but I'm on a treadmill. I'm not actually out living my life.
Yeah, the difference between being productive as opposed to busy.
Totally. Which
so
most
I'm
of us
busy,
are just
busy, but
busy.
Am I truly productive?
Yes.
And then am I hiding in that busy?
Yep.
So then I keep pushing off what's really important to me, because everything that we've talked about.
Totally.
So then you never, it's like 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and you're like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
And you're like, because you were hiding and you were procrastinating and you were busying yourself with things that really aren't what you and who you want to become.
Totally. which is why we're depressed and depleted and frustrated and worried and in other people's business and so busy comparing, is because we're not rooted and established enough in what we're really needing and wanting to do. Right? I notice for me, the minute that I am not focused on what I want to be doing, I'm comparing, I'm judging, I'm in more fear zone or more anxiety mode. Like that for me is always now a trigger of like, whose business am I in? Like I must not be doing something hard enough in my own life because I have time to sit and think about what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like as
or
long
worry
as
about what someone else
thinks.
Maybe
so that means I'm not doing enough push-ups in my own life to like, I have time. It's almost kind of like they say, like if you're running and you can carry on a conversation, they're like, you're running fast enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the whole concept here, is that am I willing to let go of this busy lifestyle, and am I willing to actually get into my journey and enjoy the journey of what it's allowing me to become?
And then comfortability.
You gotta let go of comfort.
I think
So here's what we're going to encourage you guys to do for the next, year, to follow us. I'm going to say now, go to thedreamfactoryandco.com and subscribe to all the things, right? Because we are going to share this journey with you. We will not be a perfect skeptical of what this looks like. We're not going to just deliver this product when it's perfectly packaged and a nice little bow on top. Like we're going to show the journey and the ins and the outs and the ups and the downs of what it looks like to unapologetically chase your dreams. And it's messy and it can be confusing and a lot of stress can pop up, but like I so badly want people to be in that journey with us, not because that's a comfortable place for me to be, because let's be honest, it's not. I don't do a very good job at showing weakness. I don't like that.
Yeah, and it's hard, but like we've said, and we'll share. You'll have to go to the YouTube channel, and I'll do some videos on some of the experiences that we had, from the car engine basically blowing up on us when we were traveling the fifth wheel, to the other car getting almost totaled, while we were traveling in a A-class RV. So some of these experiences, who knows, and God willing, nothing like that will happen, but we're learning and growing in other areas. So check out the YouTube channel, and I'll do some videos on some of the things that we went through in this 6-year process. One of the houses that remodeled and almost moved into caught fire 3 or 4 days before we were going to move into it. Right before Christmas. And so all these little things that we've had, and it had kind of rerouted us to get us to right here. So we get to share this, and I second that. We're going to put it out there. It's going to be real. It's going to be raw. Some of the stuff that we're going through and experiencing to showcase, like we're just in the midst of ours, and we hope it'll inspire you, encourage you to look at where you're at and where you really want to go, and what do you have to step away from, step back from, and uncommit yourself to, or start practicing and doing things that you've never done, so you can have what you've never had before. And that's the these flies. I think that they are multiplying right now. We're just getting a good point. Amen. Like we're just amening in here. So here's really what we encourage you. I think that in order to go to a place you've never been, you got to let go of ego. Let's see if we can remember all of these, right? Ego, comfort, attachments, commitments, comparison, busy, right? Like these are legit things that you have to let go of. They could be habits and patterns, right? It's even like when you are trying to lose weight, right? The first thing is that you eat less and you walk more. Once you get there, you plateau, right? Like that's the same concept. And then you got to run or sprint, right? Or you have to do intervals. And then once you plateau again, it's like, well, you might need to do some weight training. And then once you, like, we all plateau, like we do this physically. And so if you have plateaued in a certain area of your life, now is the time to go, okay, what am I willing to let go of? Habits, patterns, routines, relationships that got me to where I am. And not because they're bad or wrong, but simply because I just can't take it to where I'm going. I think all of us, even as you hear those words, you're going to go, dang it. We all know. We really do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, are we just willing to do it? Yeah. Are we just willing to do it? But I think that in order to get what you want, you have to be. You have to have the courage. And I think it is a courage play. You have to have the courage to let go. Yep. So go to our website,
for two reasons. Number one, when you go to thedreamfactoryandco.com, there is 7 secrets to living bold, which if you go to subscribe to all the things, and then also follow us on our journey. Go to our social media and follow the journey, where we will not only be encouraging you in your own journey to live bold, we will be sharing our crazy journey along the way of traveling the country, of putting this new book, Dream, I Dare You, in as many hands as we possibly can get it. But go there now. And we encourage you today that in order to get what you've always wanted, that maybe, just maybe, you need to let go.
Do something different.
On behalf of both of us, thank you for listening to another episode of Dream On. Don't forget to visit our website, The Dream Factory & Co., for all the show notes and other tools and resources to get you unstuck, clear, and helping you reprogram your thoughts and beliefs so that you can live out your dreams with a community that supports and challenges you. Until next time, dream on.